I never thought my life would implode because of a plain brown envelope. But there it was, sitting innocently on my doorstep when I got home from dropping Oliver at daycare. No return address, just my name, Harper Quinn, typed neatly on the front. I almost tossed it in with the junk mail. My hands were full of grocery bags, and I was already running late for a client consultation. But something about that envelope nagged at me. Maybe it was how precisely my name was centered, or how the paper felt expensive between my fingers. Inside were photos. At first, they didn't make sense, just random shots of downtown Seattle. Then I saw him. My husband Caleb, walking into the Fairmont Olympic Hotel. Another shot showed him at their bar, leaning close to a woman with long dark hair. The final photo punched the air from my lungs, Caleb kissing her in the elevator, his hands tangled in that same dark hair. The timestamp showed these were taken just 3 days ago, when he'd told me he was pulling an all-nighter at the office for a product launch. My phone buzzed. A text from Caleb, running late tonight. Big presentation tomorrow. Don't wait up. I stared at his message until the screen went dark. The lies felt different now, weighted with proof I couldn't unsee. 2 years of marriage, a beautiful son. And countless late nights at the office started realigning themselves in my mind like puzzle pieces, finally showing the real picture. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Lily, still on for coffee tomorrow? You've been MIA lately. I hadn't told anyone about my suspicions. How Caleb's shirts sometimes smelled of unfamiliar perfume. How he'd started keeping his phone face down and taking calls in another room. I'd buried those doubts beneath the routine of caring for Oliver and managing my freelance makeup clients. It was easier to pretend everything was fine. But now, I laid the photos on our kitchen counter, the one Caleb had insisted on upgrading to marble last year. Everything in our house suddenly felt like a prop in some elaborate performance. The family photos on the walls. The matching coffee mugs in the cabinet. Even Oliver's artwork on the fridge seemed to mock me with its bright, innocent colors. My hands shook as I texted Lily back, "Actually, can you come over tonight? Need to talk." Then I called my afternoon client and rescheduled. I couldn't possibly focus on making someone else look beautiful when my own life was crumbling. I spent the next hour going through Caleb's things, looking for what? More evidence? Some explanation that would make this all make sense? In his closet, I found receipts for restaurants I'd never been to, tucked into jacket pockets. A small jewelry box from Tiffany's hidden behind his winter sweaters, definitely not something I'd ever received. The front door opened at exactly 6:15 p.m., right on schedule. "Honey? Why's your car still here?" Caleb's voice carried upstairs, confused but not worried. "Not yet." I looked at myself in our bedroom mirror, smoothing my hair and straightening my shoulders. The woman staring back at me wasn't the same person who'd walked through that door with groceries this morning. That Harper had been naive, trusting. This Harper had evidence scattered across her marriage bed and rage simmering beneath her skin. "Up here," I called out, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "We need to talk about your late nights at the office." His footsteps paused on the stairs. In that moment of silence, I could almost hear the gears turning in his head, crafting explanations and excuses. But I had photos that told the truth, and soon he'd realize that his carefully constructed double life was about to come crashing down. I picked up the envelope and waited for my husband to walk into a conversation that would change everything. The dinner table felt like a minefield. My mother kept glancing at Caleb's empty chair while Dad pushed his pot roast around his plate. Oliver, blissfully unaware of the tension, happily smeared mashed potatoes across his face. "Another late meeting?" Mom's voice carried that edge I'd grown to hate, the one that said "I told you so" without actually saying it. "Product launch," I replied automatically, the lie tasting bitter on my tongue. It had been 3 days since I'd found the photos, and I still hadn't confronted Caleb. Each night, he'd come home with perfectly crafted excuses and gentle kisses that felt like betrayal. You know, Harper, Dad set down his fork when your mother and I were starting out. James, Mom warned, but he continued. No, Margaret, she needs to hear this. When we were young, I worked 2 jobs to keep us afloat. But I never missed Sunday dinner. Not once. I focused on wiping Oliver's face, grateful for the distraction. Caleb's company is different. Tech startups are demanding. Too demanding to see his son? Mom's question hung in the air like smoke. My phone buzzed. A text from Caleb, sorry, babe. Meeting running long. Tell your parents I'm sorry to miss dinner. Kiss Oliver goodnight for me. I showed them the message, watching their expressions darken. The same expressions they'd worn when I'd announced my engagement to Caleb 3 years ago. They'd never said it outright, but they'd seen something in him that I'd been too in love to notice. I should get Oliver home for bed, I said, standing up. It's past his bedtime. Mom followed me to the door while Dad got Oliver ready. Sweetheart, is everything okay? You seem different lately. For a moment, I almost told her everything. About the photos, the lies, the nights I lay awake listening to Caleb shower as soon as he got home, washing away evidence of where he'd been. But telling her would make it real, and I wasn't ready for that yet. I'm fine, Mom. Just tired. She hugged me tight, and I had to fight back tears. You know you can always come home, right? You and Oliver both. The drive home was quiet except for Oliver's soft snoring from the backseat. I took the long way, passing by Caleb's office building. His car wasn't in its usual spot, but I hadn't expected it to be. I wondered if he was with her right now, in some expensive hotel room, while I drove our son home alone. When I pulled into our driveway, I noticed a woman standing near our front door. For a wild moment, I thought it might be her, the dark-haired woman from the photos. But as I got closer, I recognized Lily's familiar silhouette. Surprise, she called out softly, noticing Oliver asleep in my arms. I brought wine and that terrible reality TV show you love. Inside, after putting Oliver to bed, Lily poured us each a generous glass of red. Okay, spill. You've been avoiding me for days, and you look like hell. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to the photos I'd saved. Someone sent these to me. Lily's sharp intake of breath said everything. She flipped through them slowly, her expression hardening with each swipe. That son of a bitch. I don't know what to do, I admitted, the words finally breaking free. I haven't confronted him yet. I keep waiting for. I don't know what I'm waiting for. You're waiting for it not to be true, Lily said gently. But Harper, you need to. The front door opened, and Caleb's voice called out, Honey? Why are all the lights still on? Lily and I froze, staring at each other. My phone, with the damning photos still displayed, sat between us on the coffee table. Footsteps approached the living room, and I had to decide, face him now, with Lily as my witness, or continue pretending everything was fine. I reached for my phone just as Caleb walked in, but I wasn't quite fast enough. His eyes caught the image on the screen, and for just a moment, his carefully maintained facade cracked. After Caleb's hasty retreat from the living room that night, I couldn't sleep. His laptop sat on his desk, taunting me. He never logged out, why would he? We'd always trusted each other. Or at least, I'd trusted him. The clock read 3:17 a.m. when I finally sat at his desk. His password was still Oliver's birthday. Some things hadn't changed, even if everything else had. I didn't know what I was looking for until I found it, a second email account hidden in his browser history. The username made my stomach turn, cfoster.private@gmail.com. Real creative, Caleb. The inbox loaded, and there she was. Vanessa Reed. Dozens of emails, stretching back months. My hands shook as I clicked the first one. Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about you. When can I see you again? Date stamped 3 days after Oliver's second birthday party. I kept reading, each message worse than the last. Lunch meetings that turned into hotel afternoons. Weekend business trips that were actually romantic getaways. Plans, promises, declarations of love, all while I was at home, raising our son, believing his lies about late nights at the office. Harper? I jumped. Caleb stood in the doorway, his hair messy from sleep. For a moment, he looked like the man I'd fallen in love with, vulnerable, real. Then his eyes fell on the laptop screen. I can explain, he started. Explain what? My voice sounded strange, distant. How you've been sleeping with your coworker since our son turned 2. Or how you took her to Paris last month when you said you were at a tech conference. He stepped forward. It's not what you think. Really? I turned the screen toward him. Because I think it's exactly what these emails show. You and Vanessa planning your little rendezvous while I'm at home, being the perfect wife, the devoted mother. Lower your voice, he hissed. You'll wake Oliver. Oh, now you care about Oliver? The laugh that escaped me didn't sound like my own. Where was that concern when you were missing his doctor's appointments for your afternoon hookups? His face changed then, hardening into something I didn't recognize. You want to know the truth? Fine. Yes, I'm seeing Vanessa. Yes, it's been going on for months. Because with her, I don't have to pretend to be perfect all the time. She doesn't look at me with disappointment when I work late or miss a family dinner. No, she just looks at you naked in hotel rooms while your wife and child wait at home. He flinched. That's not fair. Fair? I stood up so quickly the chair crashed backward. You want to talk about fair? I'm going to show you fair. I grabbed my phone and started forwarding the emails to myself. Caleb lunged for the laptop, but I blocked him. Don't, he warned. Think about what you're doing. Think about Oliver. I am thinking about Oliver. I'm thinking about how I'm going to explain to our son why his father is a lying, cheating. A cry from down the hall cut me off. Oliver, awakened by our fighting. We both froze, the sound of our son's distress cutting through the tension like a knife. I'll get him, Caleb said, moving toward the door. No. I stepped in front of him. You don't get to comfort him. Not anymore. As I walked to Oliver's room, I heard Caleb call after me, Harper, please. We can work this out. I'll end it with Vanessa. I'll do whatever you want. I picked up our crying son, holding him close, breathing in his innocent scent. It's okay, baby, I whispered. Mommy's here. Over Oliver's shoulder, I watched Caleb hovering in the doorway, his face a mask of regret and desperation. But all I could see were those emails, those lies, those betrayals playing on repeat in my mind. Pack a bag, I said quietly, still rocking Oliver. I want you gone before we wake up. Harper. And Caleb? I met his eyes, letting him see all the hurt and anger I'd been holding back. Tell Vanessa she can have you. I'm done. Oliver's sobs quieted to hiccups as Caleb's footsteps retreated down the hall. In the darkness of the nursery, I made a silent promise to my son. This wasn't the end of our story, it was just the beginning of a new one. The divorce papers sat untouched on my kitchen counter for 3 days. My lawyer said they were straightforward, a clean break, joint custody of Oliver, division of assets. Simple. Except nothing about destroying a family is simple. Caleb called again, his 4th attempt today. I let it go to voicemail, like all the others. Instead, I focused on Oliver playing with his blocks on the floor, building towers just to knock them down. Each crash made him giggle, completely unaware that his world was falling apart too. The doorbell rang. I checked my phone, no scheduled visits, no deliveries. Through the peephole, I saw Caleb, looking more disheveled than I'd ever seen him. "Harper, please," he called through the door. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I glanced at Oliver, still absorbed in his blocks. "Stay right there, baby," I whispered, stepping onto the porch and closing the door behind me. Caleb looked terrible. His usual pressed shirts and perfect hair replaced by wrinkled clothes and dark circles under his eyes. "You're not answering my calls. I'm busy keeping our son's life as normal as possible. I miss him. I miss you both." He reached for my hand, but I stepped back. "We can fix this." I ended things with Vanessa. Completely. I even requested a transfer to a different department. "Did you tell her about Paris?" The words came out sharp, cutting. "About the apartment you were planning to buy there?" "I saw the real estate emails, Caleb. You weren't just having an affair, you were building a whole other life." His face paled. "Those were just fantasies. I never meant to get caught." I laughed, but it sounded more like a sob. "You know what the worst part is? I keep thinking about all those nights I apologized to Oliver for you missing bedtime. All those times I defended you to my parents. I made excuses for you while you were planning your escape. It wasn't like that." He ran his hands through his hair, a nervous gesture I used to find endearing. "I was lost, Harper. The pressure at work, trying to be the perfect husband and father. I cracked. Vanessa was just convenient? A mistake." His voice cracked. "The biggest mistake of my life. But we have history, Harper. We have Oliver. We can get through this." A car pulled into our driveway, Vanessa's sleek BMW. My heart stopped as she stepped out, designer handbag clutched like armor. "What is she doing here?" I hissed at Caleb. I don't know." He looked genuinely shocked. "I swear, Harper, I didn't." "Save it." I turned to face Vanessa as she approached, her confidence faltering slightly when she saw my expression. "Harper," she started, "I know this is inappropriate, but we need to talk. All of us." "About what?" "How you and my husband planned your perfect Parisian life while I changed diapers." "No, about," she opened her bag, pulling out an envelope. "About this." Inside were more photos, dozens of them. But these weren't of Caleb and Vanessa. They were of Caleb with other women. Different hotels, different cities, different dates. Some from before Vanessa, some after. "He's been lying to both of us," Vanessa said quietly. "I found these on his work laptop yesterday. There are others." I stared at the photos, each one a fresh betrayal. All those business trips, all those late nights. My hands started shaking. "Harper," Caleb stepped toward me, "I can explain." The sound of Oliver's laughter drifted through the front door, innocent and pure. Something inside me hardened. "No," I said, my voice steady. "No more explanations. No more lies." I turned to Vanessa. "Thank you for showing me these. You can keep him." "Harper, please," Caleb reached for me again. "The papers are inside. Sign them by Friday, or I'll make sure every woman you've ever deceived gets their day in court." I opened the front door. "And Caleb?" "Oliver's birthday party is next weekend. Don't come." I walked inside, leaving them both on the porch, and sat down next to my son. He immediately handed me a block, smiling his father's smile. "Build, Mommy," he said simply. So I did, helping him create something new from the pieces of our broken world. The fashion show prep room buzzed with nervous energy. Models rushed between makeup stations while designers made last-minute adjustments. This was my first major event since the separation, and my hands trembled slightly as I applied eyeliner to a willowy blonde. Harper? My client list coordinator appeared, tablet in hand. There's been a change. The lead designer wants you to do Vanessa Reed's makeup. She's closing the show. The eyeliner pencil snapped in my grip. I don't work with homewreckers, I said quietly, keeping my voice steady despite the surge of anger. She specifically requested you. Said you're the best in Seattle. He paused, checking his tablet. It would mean a lot of exposure. She's being featured in Vogue next month. Of course she was. Vanessa always landed on her feet, even after our confrontation. The photos she'd revealed about Caleb's other affairs had done nothing to diminish her own role in destroying my marriage. Fine, I said, surprising myself. Send her over. Vanessa appeared minutes later, wearing a silk robe and an uncertain expression. Harper, Sit. I gestured to the chair, already reaching for my brushes. And don't talk. I need to concentrate. She complied, and I began working. Each stroke of the brush was precise, professional. I could make her beautiful, or I could make her look like a circus clown. The power was intoxicating. I left him, she said suddenly, breaking our tense silence. After those photos. I couldn't trust anything he said. My hand stilled. I'm not your therapist. No, but you're the only one who understands. She met my eyes in the mirror. He's seeing someone new already. Did you know? I didn't, and the knowledge hit harder than expected. My brushstrokes became slightly more aggressive. Some junior executive at his company. 25, fresh out of business school. Vanessa winced as I applied the eyeliner with perhaps too much force. He has a type, doesn't he? Women who admire him, look up to him. Until they realize it's all an act. Stop talking. My voice cracked slightly. Just stop. Harper? Lily appeared behind me, concern etched on her face. She'd been helping coordinate the show's logistics. Everything okay here? Fine, I said, adding the final touches to Vanessa's makeup. We're done. You're perfect. Go destroy someone else's life. Vanessa stood, her expression complicated. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Not just about Caleb. About everything. As she walked away, Lily grabbed my arm. What was that about? And why didn't you tell me she'd be here? I didn't know. I started packing up my supplies, hands shaking. Did you know about Caleb's new girlfriend? Harper. Did you? Lily's silence was answer enough. I pushed past her, needing air, needing space. In the hallway, I bumped into someone, the lead designer. Harper Quinn? Perfect timing. I wanted to discuss using you for our Paris Fashion Week team next month. Paris. Where Caleb and Vanessa had planned their future. Where he was probably taking his new girlfriend now. I need a minute. I rushed toward the exit, ignoring the calls behind me. Outside, the Seattle rain matched my mood. My phone buzzed, a text from my mom, Oliver's having a great time. Don't worry about rushing back. Another buzz. Caleb, can we talk about adjusting the custody schedule? Sarah would like to meet Oliver. Sarah. The new girlfriend had a name. I stared at my reflection in a rain puddle, mascara running down my cheeks. The woman looking back at me seemed foreign, broken, lost. But something else flickered in those eyes. Determination. Rage. Power. My phone buzzed again. The lead designer, Paris offer stands. All expenses paid, 3-week contract. Need answer tonight. I thought about Caleb and his parade of women. About Vanessa and her perfectly made-up face. About Oliver, who deserved a mother he could be proud of. Walking back inside, I found the lead designer. About Paris, I said, my voice stronger than I'd felt in months. I'm in. But I have one condition: I want to do Vanessa's makeup for the entire show. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destruction. It's about rising above, shining brighter, and showing them exactly what they lost. Paris in December wasn't the romantic dream I'd imagined. Rain pelted the hotel windows as I unpacked my makeup supplies, trying to focus on tomorrow's show. 3 weeks of working alongside Vanessa, my own personal version of hell, dressed up as career advancement. My phone lit up with a video call from home. Oliver's face filled the screen, chocolate smeared across his cheeks. Mommy! Look what Sarah made. Sarah. Of course she was there during Caleb's custody time. My stomach clenched as the camera panned to show elaborate Christmas cookies spread across my former kitchen counter. My kitchen. Where that woman now played happy families with my son. They're beautiful, baby, I managed. Are you being good for Daddy? Sarah's teaching me to decorate. His innocent excitement felt like needles in my heart. When are you coming home? Soon, sweetheart. Just 2 more. The call dropped. Typical Paris hotel Wi-Fi. I tried reconnecting, but messages started flooding in instead. Caleb, Oliver's asking for you. Maybe you should reconsider this Paris thing. Mom, he needs stability right now, not a globetrotting mother. Lily, call me ASAP. Caleb's filing for primary custody. The room spun. I grabbed the desk for support, knocking over my makeup case. Brushes and palettes scattered across the floor like my shattered life. A knock at the door. Vanessa stood there, perfect as always in her model pose. Harper? The designer wants to discuss tomorrow's look. Get out. My voice sounded strange, distant. Are you okay? You look like someone who lost everything? I laughed, harsh and broken. While you're here living your dream career, my ex-husband and his new girlfriend are stealing my son. Vanessa stepped inside, closing the door. Caleb's filing for custody? Don't pretend you care. I started picking up scattered makeup brushes, hands shaking. This is what you wanted, right? To destroy my life? I never wanted. Save it. A brush snapped in my grip. You know what's funny? I thought doing your makeup, making you look perfect for these shows, would be my revenge. Show you both what you lost. But you didn't lose anything, did you? You got your career, your freedom. I'm the one who lost everything. Harper, stop. Vanessa grabbed my hands, forcing me to look at her. Caleb doesn't deserve Oliver. Or you. Or any woman. He's a narcissist who collects people like trophies. I learned that too late, but you're stronger than I ever was. I pulled away. Strong? I'm in Paris doing makeup while another woman bakes cookies with my son. No, you're in Paris building your career while Caleb plays house with his latest victim. She picked up my phone, showing me the cookie photo. Look closer. I did. Behind Oliver's smiling face, I saw what she meant. The kitchen I'd loved was now stark white, my colorful curtains gone, my spice rack replaced with modern minimalism. Sarah's influence, erasing me piece by piece. He's doing to her what he did to us, Vanessa said quietly. Creating the perfect life, the perfect woman. Until she stops being perfect. My phone buzzed again. Lily, don't panic. I've called your lawyer. Sarah's history of job hopping and 3 failed engagements won't look good in court. We've got this. Lily. Always fighting in my corner while I ran away to Paris. The show starts in 12 hours, Vanessa said, gathering my scattered supplies. Make me beautiful. Make me perfect. Then we'll talk about how to handle Caleb. I stared at her, this woman I'd hated for so long. Why would you help me? Because I sent those first photos to you. She met my eyes steadily. I knew what he was doing to others, and I chose you to send them to. Because you seemed strong enough to break the cycle. The makeup brush felt different in my hand now. Not a tool for revenge, but for transformation. For both of us. Sit down, I said, my voice stronger. Let's make you unforgettable. Then you can tell me everything you know about Caleb's patterns. Every detail. Sometimes rock bottom isn't an ending. Sometimes it's where you find your strongest allies and your clearest purpose. The courthouse hallway felt endless. My heels clicked against marble as I approached the mediation room, Lily and my lawyer flanking me like guards. Through the glass, I could see Caleb and Sarah already seated, heads bent together in conversation. Remember, my lawyer whispered, stick to the facts. Don't let him provoke you. I nodded, clutching a manila envelope that contained everything Vanessa had given me in Paris, photos, emails, hotel receipts. A paper trail of destruction that led straight to Caleb's perfectly crafted facade. The door opened. Caleb stood, all corporate charm and practiced concern. Harper, you're looking well. Paris agreed with you. Let's skip the small talk. I sat across from him, noting how Sarah's hand tightened possessively on his arm. She looked younger in person, more vulnerable. Just his type. The mediator began with custody arrangements. Caleb's lawyer presented their case for primary custody, citing my unstable work schedule and international travel commitments. My client can provide consistency, he argued. A stable home environment with his fiancée. Fiancé? The word escaped before I could stop it. Sarah's diamond ring caught the fluorescent light, mocking me. Caleb smiled that familiar smile, the one that used to make me feel special, chosen. We were going to announce it this weekend. Oliver's already calling her mommy. The room tilted. Lily's hand found mine under the table as Caleb continued, it's time to be realistic, Harper. Oliver needs to know the truth? I opened the envelope, sliding the first photo across the table. About his father's pattern of manipulation? Caleb's smile faltered. Sarah leaned forward, confusion clouding her features as she studied the image, Caleb with another woman, dated just 2 weeks ago. This is irrelevant, Caleb's lawyer interjected, but I kept going, laying out photo after photo, email after email. 6 women in the past year, I said quietly. Each one thinking they were special, chosen. Each one manipulated into believing they were the only one. I turned to Sarah. Has he taken you to La Petite Maison in Paris yet? It's his favorite spot for proposals. Sarah's face drained of color. Caleb? She's lying, he snapped, but his mask was cracking. These are obviously doctored. The hotel receipts aren't doctored, I continued. Neither are the credit card statements or the burner phone records. Would you like to explain those? The mediator cleared her throat. Perhaps we should take a break. No. Sarah's voice shook. I want to hear this. She picked up one of the photos, studying it. This was last week. You said you were in Vancouver for work. Caleb stood abruptly, chair scraping against floor. This is ridiculous. I won't sit here and listen to these accusations. Sit down, Mr. Foster, the mediator ordered. Or this mediation ends and we move directly to court proceedings. He sat, but his eyes burned into mine. Why are you doing this? Because Oliver deserves better, I said simply. Better than watching you cycle through women, better than learning that lies and manipulation are normal. Better than becoming you. Sarah stood quietly, slipping off her engagement ring. It clinked against the table as she walked out, dignity intact, but shoulders shaking. "You've ruined everything," Caleb hissed. "No," I corrected him. "You did that yourself. I'm just making sure you can't ruin anyone else." I turned to the mediator. "I have a custody proposal. Joint legal custody, but Oliver's primary residence stays with me. Mr. Foster can have supervised visitation until he completes therapy and parenting classes." Caleb laughed bitterly. "You think this makes you better than me? Destroying my relationship, my reputation? No, Caleb. This makes me different from you. Because unlike you, I'm thinking about Oliver's future, not my revenge." As we left the mediation room, Lily squeezed my hand. "You okay?" I watched Caleb through the glass, alone now, staring at the evidence of his destructive patterns spread across the table. For the first time, he looked small, ordinary, just a man who couldn't stop breaking things. "Yeah," I said, surprising myself by meaning it. "I really am." 1 year later, I sat in my home office, staring at the blinking cursor on my laptop screen. The blog post was almost finished, my 100th entry about surviving betrayal and rebuilding life after divorce. What had started as therapy had somehow become a lifeline for thousands of women going through similar struggles. A notification popped up: "Vanessa Reed liked your post." We'd developed an unexpected friendship since Paris, bonding over our shared experience and determination to warn others about men like Caleb. Her modeling career had taken off, and she'd become an advocate for women's empowerment in the fashion industry. Oliver's laughter drifted through the open window. He was playing in the backyard with Caleb, their first unsupervised visit since the custody agreement. I watched them from my desk, noting how Caleb had changed. The designer suits were gone, replaced by casual clothes and genuine smiles. Therapy had stripped away his perfect facade, revealing something more human underneath. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah: "Thank you for saving me from making a huge mistake. Getting married next month to someone real. Would love for you to do my makeup for the wedding." I smiled, remembering how she'd reached out months ago, wanting to understand what had happened. We'd met for coffee, two women healing from the same man's manipulation. Her engagement ring now belonged to someone who deserved her trust. "Harper?" Lily appeared in my doorway, carrying 2 glasses of wine. "Your parents just called. They want to know if you're still coming to dinner tonight. Wouldn't miss it." I saved my blog post and closed the laptop. Dad's making his famous pot roast. The same pot roast from that awful dinner when everything started falling apart? The very same. I took a glass from her, remembering that night. Who would have thought that was actually the beginning of everything coming together? Outside, Oliver squealed as Caleb pushed him on the swing. Higher and higher, but not too high, Caleb was learning boundaries, finally understanding that love wasn't about possession or perfection. "Your latest post is trending," Lily noted, scrolling through her phone. "The one about forgiveness, not meaning reconciliation. It's what everyone struggles with most." I watched Oliver jump from the swing into Caleb's arms. Learning that you can forgive someone while still choosing yourself. The doorbell rang. My date for dinner, a kind-eyed photographer I'd met at Fashion Week. We were taking things slowly, both carrying our own histories, both understanding that trust is earned in small moments rather than grand gestures. "Time to go in," I called out the window. Oliver ran inside, Caleb following more slowly. "Thanks for today," he said, lingering in the doorway. "And for everything else. The therapy recommendations, the second chance with Oliver. We're both doing better this way," I replied simply. After they left, Oliver for his playdate, Caleb to his own life, my date to reschedule for another time, I returned to my laptop. The cursor still blinked, waiting for me to finish my story. I typed, "Revenge isn't always about destruction. Sometimes it's about reconstruction, building yourself into something stronger than before. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well, loving deeply, and letting go of the perfect picture you thought your life would be." Lily read over my shoulder. "That's it? That's how you're ending it?" "No," I said, adding one final line, "because the end of one story is just the beginning of another. And this time, I'm writing my own." I hit publish and stood up, ready for dinner with my parents. Ready for whatever came next. The manila envelope of Caleb's indiscretions still sat in my desk drawer, untouched for months. I didn't need it anymore. Its purpose had been served, not just in saving me, but in saving others too. Outside, the sunset painted Seattle in shades of possibility. My phone buzzed with notifications as the blog post went live. Each one representing someone else finding their way through darkness toward something real. Sometimes the happiest endings aren't about getting everything you wanted, but about discovering what you actually needed. And sometimes, just sometimes, those two things turn out to be completely different stories.
You're overthinking it by calling it cheating. If it's happening, maybe there's something wrong with you? Like, not being charming enough. When I confided my worries, my sister laughed them off as if they were nothing. She left me behind and headed to the cashier. I stood alone, biting my lip, unable to say anything. Carrying Mandy, who was pale and breathing shallowly, I hurried home. I was surprised when we arrived. There should have been no one at home at this hour, yet a car was parked in front of the house. It was a company car with Ben's company's name on it. I quietly opened the front door, only to find Ben's and my sister's shoes there. Loud voices were coming from the bedroom. I hurried out of the house and headed to my parents' home. "Dad, something terrible has happened with my sister. I will make sure they deeply regret making enemies of me and my father. I, Susan Baker, a housewife in her early 50s. I enjoy reading books, laughing, and making others laugh. Despite my plain, quiet appearance, people say I'm like a comedian when I talk. My family is the opposite of me. Unlike me, who resembles our father with small eyes and a nose, my sister Kelly, who inherited our mother's beauty, has always overshadowed me. For example, I'll never forget something that happened over 30 years ago. Just after graduating high school, I was desperately trying to do my makeup when my sister suddenly spoke to me. "You doing makeup? It doesn't suit you at all. Why don't you just go barefaced and blend in with the old ladies?" Even when I was furious, she kept looking down on me. This mean, selfish image of my sister has stuck with me since childhood. As we grew into our 20s, my sister became an elementary school teacher. I was working at a normal company in our hometown, but she belittled even that. After all, there's no security in the private sector. I'm a public servant, so I'm guaranteed not to fail. It's the best. While my sister was boastfully proud, our mother, who was also a teacher, frowned and sighed. Our playful father managed to turn even such situations into jokes, making us laugh, but my heart was only truly clear when my sister wasn't there. I fell in love 3 years after starting my job at age 23. He was a quiet-looking man wearing glasses, named Ben. As I excitedly went on dates, my sister would mock me every time we met. She criticized everything from my clothes and makeup to my taste in partners. But I always ignored it and deepened my love with Ben. I'm going to marry Ben. I've already introduced him to Mom and Dad. You should meet him too. As I announced our marriage over the phone, my sister, who was still single at the time, responded in an irritated tone. "What? Getting married before me? Unbelievable. Normally, you'd give way to your older sister, that's the worst." All I could think was, I don't care. I went ahead and got married. Ben and I had a good relationship, and I think we were really happy. Before long, my sister also got married. Her marriage was arranged, and I worried she might have been competing with me. Her husband, like her, was a schoolteacher and seemed very serious. She had children before me, and I was relieved not to receive any sarcastic comments this time. It was peaceful for a while. I never thought this peace would soon be shattered. After giving birth, I quit my job. As a busy mother, I could no longer care about my appearance, and both my hair and face deteriorated. Then, Ben started to neglect me suddenly. "You suddenly look like an old woman," he said, sighing as he passed by. I wanted a second child, but Ben was reluctant to respond. I was so shocked I even considered divorce. I consulted with friends and parents, and they all listened sympathetically. Worried, I even consulted my sister during a family gathering at Easter. It was a desperate attempt, but her response was less than helpful. "Just be glad you got married. If you have complaints, just divorce now, stop whining." My sister said this as if it was a bother, then went off to freshen up her makeup and go out. Left behind was my brother-in-law, looking awkward and out of place at his wife's family home. Realizing once again that I couldn't get along with my sister, I continued to be troubled by Ben's coldness. Yet, I couldn't make up my mind to leave, and time passed. Nearly 30 years later. My young troubles were lost in the busyness of life, and I ended up not divorcing Ben. Although our romantic feelings had long faded, I still considered him a member of the same household. When my daughter Mandy became a middle school student, I started working as a cashier part-time, giving me a place outside the home. But then, the store I had worked at for many years was about to close. The store where I work part-time is closing, so I'll be unemployed from next month. I reported this at dinner, and Ben looked up, seemingly surprised. Mandy swallowed her hamburger and said, "That's fine. You've been working hard all this time, Mom. Why not take a break for a while? If you quit your job, we can match our weekends. Let's go on a family trip sometime." Mandy's suggestion made me happy. Until now, it had been hard to match schedules since I was busy on weekends and Ben had them off. But as Mandy said, it would now be easier to coordinate. Mandy works in the service industry, so she is a full-time employee but can choose her holidays to some extent. After dinner, while I was washing the dishes, Ben suddenly spoke to me. We hadn't talked much recently, except while watching TV. "If you're not going out to work, you'll be at home all the time, right? Let me know if you have days when you'll be out." I casually responded, thinking he might be concerned about dinner. "I don't have any particular plans, but if I do go out, I'll be back by evening." Ben nodded ambiguously, still seemingly wanting to know. It's unusual for him since he isn't the controlling type, but I told him I would let him know beforehand when I was going out. Being a full-time homemaker again after so long. Doing housework like before, I found myself with spare time during the day and was stunned. I tried to enjoy my time by increasing my reading and getting more involved in cooking, but still, there was too much free time. Most of all, I missed having conversations with others. Recently, Ben has been coming home later too. When I asked why, he said his workload at the company had increased. So, I decided to visit my father, who lives about a 10-minute drive away. Since my mother passed away a few years ago, my father has been living peacefully with 2 cats. When I went to visit him with homemade sweets, he was delighted to see me. "By the way, Susan, have you seen Kelly recently?" As we were having a pleasant chat, my father suddenly asked. Since we only meet during Easter or Christmas holidays, I shook my head. Then, my father seemed puzzled as he said, "Kelly is now working at a school 2 stations away, so she's close, right? I wanted to give her some of the good pickled plums we buy, so I called her to stop by after work." Then she showed up in quite flashy attire. Is that the trend now? I couldn't answer as I hadn't seen it for myself. Incidentally, I dislike pickles, but they are my sister's favorite. Something was off, though. Kelly's phone rang on the table, and when I went to hand it to her, she snapped at me not to touch it. She also insisted on placing her phone face down, and when I warned her it might scratch the screen, she glared at me. It was just that, but I felt uneasy. Because my sister wasn't the type to fuss over how her phone was placed in the past. With that on my mind, I returned home. That evening at dinner, I casually mentioned it to my family. I went to my parents' house today, and my sister seems different. She's become flashy, and she insists on placing her phone face down. What could be going on? It was more than just a feeling of discomfort. I was also worried. Then, Mandy spoke up. Aunt Kelly might be cheating, right? I nearly dropped my chopsticks in shock. Ben choked on his soup. I read somewhere that those are signs of someone cheating. Other signs include going out more often, coming home late, and frequently checking their partner's schedule. Hearing that, I instinctively looked at Ben. Some of the traits Mandy mentioned perfectly matched him. I thought it was overthinking, but I couldn't help but be concerned. Don't talk about such things outside. It's embarrassing. Noticing my gaze, Ben made a sour face. The next day, I unexpectedly ran into my sister. We bumped into each other at a store near our home. Oh, Kelly? It's rare to see you here. Are you going to Dad's house? Surprised by my sudden greeting, my sister jumped. Turning around, she was wearing bold lipstick and a large scarf. Her attire was flashy, and I could see why our father was concerned. I chatted with my sister for a bit and then remembered the conversation from last night. I hesitated to ask her directly, but I thought it might be okay to discuss Ben. Yesterday, Mandy talked about the signs of someone cheating. My husband fits quite a few of them, and I was shocked. It can't be, right? I'm feeling a bit uneasy. Ignoring my sigh, my sister was choosing a drink. Then she answered lightly. You're overthinking it by calling it cheating. If it's happening, maybe there's something wrong with you? Like, not being charming enough. Her attitude seemed to dismiss the importance of my concerns. She quickly headed to the cashier as if to end the conversation. Left alone, I bit my lip, unable to say anything. Then, several weeks later on a Sunday, when I had almost forgotten about the conversation about cheating, I went out to see a movie. I traveled a bit farther to a new cinema to enjoy the film I had been looking forward to in a good environment. Just as I was about to arrive, my phone suddenly rang. Mom. Sorry, can you come pick me up? I feel awful. Over the phone, Mandy sounded in pain. I was startled. What's wrong? Are you okay? I'm coming right now, wait for me. I hurriedly changed my route and drove to Mandy's workplace. When I arrived, Mandy was outside the building. It seems her period was causing severe discomfort, including nausea. I'll just go home for now. I'll visit the gynecologist later. So, I decided to head home with her. A few minutes later, as I safely arrived in front of our house, I was puzzled. Ben's company car was parked in front of the house. Since Ben is in sales, he might have stopped by the house for some reason during his rounds. Maybe he forgot something. Since he knew I would be out, it was possible he couldn't ask for a delivery to be made. Without thinking much of it, I parked my car and opened the front door with my daughter. Women's shoes were there. Women's shoes that weren't ours were in the entrance. Ben's shoes were there too. I felt a chill run through my body. The conversation about cheating suddenly came back to me. Then I noticed strange noises coming from the bedroom. It seemed they hadn't noticed us yet. Leaving Mandy, who was pale not just from her condition, at the entrance, I approached the bedroom. And then I stopped. Because I recognized the voices better than anyone else. Kelly. I blurted out without thinking. Ben was in the midst of it with my sister. I quietly went back to the entrance without making a sound. Leaving Mandy, who was feeling ill, at the entrance, I drove off in a hurry. I was heading to my parents' house. When I arrived, my father was just tending to the plants in the yard. Dad, sister is in trouble. I pulled my father into the car. He was somewhat muddy, but that was the least of my concerns. We headed home as I explained the situation. After hearing everything, Dad nodded with his smartphone set to record. Okay, got it. Leave it to me. My father, now retired and with plenty of time, brandished his latest model smartphone, which he had stood in line to buy. I could guess what he was planning to do next, but I no longer felt like stopping him. Do you want to handle this seriously, or should we mock them? Asked thus, I replied immediately. Make it funny at least at the beginning. I'm definitely getting a divorce, and I want to hire a lawyer to show them this. It might even capture both their filthy bodies, so we need to balance out the grossness. Dad nodded firmly. Soon, we arrived at our home. Mandy was sitting outside the entrance, hugging her knees and looking down. As I approached, she looked up and said, "They're still here. So energetic for their age. Also, sorry, I felt so sick I threw up." Mandy looked really unwell. She had left work early to rest, and now this mess had engulfed her. Feeling incredibly sorry, I stroked her back and spoke. "I'm sorry, Mandy. You can go to your room if you're able to walk, can you?" As I asked, Mandy slowly stood up. I quietly opened the door, noticing the mess Mandy had returned, and couldn't help but laugh. Now, it was time to confront them. Dad and I exchanged glances and headed for the bedroom. From inside, we could hear sounds of activity, subdued but still ongoing. "Ready, on 3. Dad whispered to me and suddenly flung the door open. The two on the bed screamed at the sudden intrusion. The desire to scream was mutual. What were they doing on the bed where I sleep every night? The two were literally in the middle of an intimate act, bare as the day they were born. Apparently, they had been considerate enough not to dirty the sheets, opting for a bath towel instead. If they were that considerate, they shouldn't have brought it to our home. "Whoa, Father." Ben was the first to regain his composure. My sister, with her smeared lipstick, frantically tried to cover herself, not understanding what was happening. Dad then began his act of furious anger. "Kelly. You. Over 50 and behaving like this, shame on you. And you, Ben. Betraying Susan, and with Kelly. I will not forgive this." While shouting, Dad was careful to keep the camera steady, clearly not completely lost in his anger. That's something about my father. The angrier or more shocked he is, the calmer he becomes, skillfully maneuvering to put the other party at a disadvantage. However, Ben and my sister were too flustered to make such a judgment. They were completely taken aback by the usually funny grandfather, now furiously raising his voice. Dad handed me the smartphone and pressed on toward the two. "When did this start? When did you start doing this? Disgraceful, both of you." Oh. His face turned red as he shouted incomprehensibly, then suddenly collapsed onto the bed. For a moment, I panicked, thinking he might really be ill, but he purposefully fell onto a clean spot, so it seemed to be an act. I immediately played along with Dad's performance. "Oh, Dad. This is serious, maybe a blood vessel in his brain burst. He's not breathing." While pretending to be frantic, my smartphone camera remained fixed on my sister. She was too focused on Dad to notice I was recording. Turning pale, she was the first to speak. "The inheritance, we need to talk about it." Ben was also pale, but even he seemed shocked by my sister's response. While covering himself with a fallen pillow, he muttered in disbelief. "Is that really what you're worried about right now?" I agreed. Then Dad suddenly sat up, and my sister sighed in dismay at his angry expression. "Kelly, I'm really disappointed. How could you become such a person?" Dad looked genuinely appalled, earning my sympathy. As Dad sat up, my sister made a face as if realizing she was in trouble. I continued filming Ben and my sister in their disheveled state, stirring things up. "That's terrible, Kelly. To say something like that when your own parent collapses. Only someone who would do such things with their sister's husband could be so heartless." My sister turned to me with an angry face, seemingly noticing for the first time that she was being recorded. While she screamed, I kept the camera focused on her and switched places with my father to continue filming. Ben was starting to dress in the corner of the room, trying to escape. "Hey you! Don't run away. Mandy is feeling sick and just got back. It's cruel to cause more chaos when she's feeling so nauseous." Hearing his daughter's name, Ben let out a small scream, shocked to realize Mandy knew about the situation. If he felt bad about being caught, he shouldn't have done it in the first place, and it made me furious. As you can see, the two were naked in bed, clearly in the middle of an affair. "Oh, look here, an empty bottle of expensive energy drink. Seems like they were quite energized for their activities." I narrated to the smartphone my father was holding, playing the role of a reporter. Just then, my sister, wearing only a coat, ran out of the bedroom screaming. "Oh, the daughter I raised going outside in just a coat. This is tough," my father commented, following her back. My sister screamed again as she reached the entrance. "Ah! What is this?" I caught up to her without surprise. Unknown to her, Mandy had vomited on my sister in Ben's shoes at the entrance. The women's shoes were quite fancy and looked expensive. With plenty of Mandy's vomit spilled inside them, it's no wonder she would want to scream. "Kelly, where do you think you're going? You can't escape." My father and I caught my sister Kelly, who had stopped hesitantly. Then, we made Ben sit down with her and started questioning them about what had happened. "I'm sorry. I apologize, it was wrong of me." "Since when?" Probably 2 years ago." As Ben fidgeted and made excuses, he kept glancing at my sister. I wondered why until my sister clicked her tongue and curtly corrected him. 3 years. It turns out the affair started 3 years ago, the year my sister transferred to her current school. I was irritated that Ben couldn't even remember the timeline correctly, and appalled that my sister was correcting him so dutifully. "Both of you," and apologized to Susan and me. Encouraged by my father, the two of them repeatedly apologized to me. My sister was in just a coat, and Ben was in his birthday suit, both feeling awful. I felt like I might throw up too. Of course, the recording didn't stop. If we released this video publicly, we might be the ones in trouble, right? But it should serve as evidence. I nodded vigorously at my father's words. Then my sister began to spout some bizarre theory with a trembling voice. "Look, you can't sue family members. Surely, it's not a crime among family." Honestly, I had no idea what she was talking about. How could she claim that such egregious behavior within a family wouldn't be a crime? Upon closer inquiry, it seemed she had misunderstood some rule that theft and such may not be prosecutable among family members. Even so, it was clear that this case did not apply. A few hours later, Mandy and I took refuge at my father's house. We didn't want to stay in a house where such things had happened. I needed to find a lawyer quickly. And since my sister was married, I would need to inform her husband and children too. I rolled up my sleeves, ready for the busy times ahead. The betrayal by Ben and my sister was, of course, a shock. I wasn't hungry even at midnight because my appetite had completely vanished. When I closed my eyes, I could only hear my sister and Ben's unsettling voices and couldn't sleep. But still, I felt unyielding. Not sadness or despair, but anger filled my heart. A few days later, I visited a lawyer's office. When I showed the video, the lawyer watched seriously, taking notes without a smile. However, when my sister spouted her bizarre theory that "you can't sue family," the lawyer couldn't help but burst out laughing. It seemed that even lawyers have their funny bones tickled. According to the lawyer, I could claim damages from both Ben and my sister. A divorce was also possible. Considering the division of marital assets and the potential claims from my brother-in-law, Ben seemed likely to end up penniless. I also discussed with the lawyer about informing my sister's family and Ben's parents, the in-laws. The lawyer advised that it would be best to do so once the divorce was finalized. So, I picked up a divorce form immediately. As soon as the discussions about the property division were complete, I planned to confront Ben with it. Just a week later, the divorce between Ben and me was finalized. Probably realizing he couldn't deny the evidence, Ben agreed to the divorce without fuss. I was the one who filed the divorce papers, and Ben went to work as usual today. He's probably pretending nothing happened. Right after filing the divorce, I visited the in-laws in the neighboring county, greeted them, and showed them the video. The in-laws, having sensible values, were furious at their son Ben and agreed that I should claim damages. I told the in-laws, "Thank you for everything up until now. Mandy will continue to live with me. Since she is also your granddaughter, please continue to treat her well if you'd like. However, she has said she never wants to see her father again and doesn't even want to think of him as her parent. Please keep this in mind." The in-laws nodded sadly and agreed. A few hours later, after leaving Ben's parents' house, I went straight to a place I had arranged beforehand, my sister's home. There, I was met by my brother-in-law, who had taken time off, and my sister's son, who had already married and was independent. I handed them copies of the video and a business card from my lawyer. I intend to claim damages from Kelly as well. Of course, you can also claim from both Kelly and Ben. My brother-in-law solemnly nodded. Then, a viewing session started there too. My sister's son left partway through and didn't return. My brother-in-law watched the screen intently until the end, his complexion turning ashen, tears welling up in his eyes. While I was at my sister's house, my sister returned home. It was already 6 p.m., and it had become quite dark without me noticing. Upon seeing me, my sister nearly collapsed in shock. She also noticed her son, who lives in another state, and her husband, who would usually still be at work, trembling as she realized they were present. "Welcome home, Kelly. I'm about to leave soon. Please discuss this matter with your family. Also, you should be receiving a demand for damages from my lawyer soon. Make sure you pay it. If you don't, your workplace might even get notified, so be careful." With those words, I left her house. As I got into the car and started the engine, my sister came running out, shouting something. But I had no intention of listening to her words anymore. I honked the horn briefly and quickly drove away. About half a year later, my sister and her husband finally divorced, and my sister had to pay a significant amount in damages. Apparently, she had resisted the divorce fiercely, and it had led to legal proceedings. The lawyer hired by my brother-in-law was very competent, and I heard that my sister was thoroughly defeated in court. After the divorce, she was ousted from her home and even estranged from the son she had struggled so much to bear. Now, she lives alone, overwhelmed by loneliness, indulging in binge eating and drinking, and has grown out of her favorite brand name clothes. She managed to pay the damages because she was working, but her life was tough. She once came to visit my father, but as soon as she realized that Mandy and I were living with him, she quickly fled back home. There was a call, probably about a debt consultation. My father says somewhat lonely. Even if she is such an older sister, she is still a daughter to her father. Speaking of the aftermath of father and daughter, there is also the story of Ben and Mandy. It was around the same time as my sister's divorce. At night, when I was relaxing while watching TV, I received a message on Mandy's smartphone. At first glance, Mandy frowns and immediately sets the call blocking. When I thought about it, it seemed that it was like asking for a meeting from Ben. Ben has never done housework, so the house where he lives alone is dirty with dust and mold. He said he was whining that he was eating out more, getting sick, and having less and less money. I don't know where I saw it, but I was shocked to see me and you walking arm in arm and happily walking. Ah, impossible. It's really disgusting. I want to erase him from my memory. Megan shudders in disgust. My father seemed to miss my sister like that, but Mandy seems to want to be a stranger to that father forever. Now, let's talk about the damnation inflicted by chance. It's not my fault that this is all my fault, but my sister and Ben deserve even more reward. The story goes back to the time when my sister and her husband are quarreling with each other about whether or not to divorce. At that time, It seems that not only my sister and her husband but also my sister's son's family were involved in many family meetings. The miserable state of such adults was closely watched by my 4-year-old sister's grandson, Ryan. A 4-year-old is still like a baby. Naturally, I don't fully understand the gravity of the situation. Therefore, Ryan slipped his mouth and told the teachers and friends of the children's kindergarten. My grandma was in bed naked with her sister's husband, and grandpa and daddy and great-grandpa were very angry. Why can't they just sleep naked? Because I'm going to catch a cold? When the other children heard this, they were amused and told their families. The parents who heard the story were surprised by the ridiculous story, and the adults must have gossiped about it. Of course, I can imagine that even the teachers would have heard the rumors. The gossip flowed freely. And just when my sister's divorce was finalized, it reached a place related to Ben's place of work. The son of a business partner is the brother of my sister's grandson's friend. It's already confusing and I don't really understand. But it shows how unexpectedly far-reaching personal connections can be. Essentially, Ben's infidelity became known at his company and among clients. Ben quickly lost his standing. Not only was he divorced due to infidelity, but the affair was with his sister-in-law, which naturally led to being shunned. Just a month after the rumors began to spread, Ben's prospects for promotion, which were expected to be within reach before his retirement, were cut off due to the unbearable situation, leading him to choose early retirement. Mandy learned of this outcome from their grandparents and couldn't help but laugh, remarking, "That's divine punishment." The situation was more severe for my sister. Being a school teacher, she was in a position where such behavior was utterly inexcusable, quickly becoming the target of rumors. The gossip traveled from child to adult and spread instantaneously even to other schools. When complaints from parents reached her, my sister realized for the first time that her actions were known throughout the community. Perhaps because it became too uncomfortable, my sister requested a transfer to a school in a more remote area, hoping for a quieter life. However, it was too late. The rumors of her misconduct had reached her new posting even before she arrived. What's more, rural areas tend to be even stricter about scandals. Ultimately, my sister took a leave of absence from the teaching job she had been so proud of. The rumor that she had an affair with her sister's husband caused all her friends to distance themselves from her. Now, feeling as if she is being gossiped about wherever she goes, my sister is somewhat reclusive and is likely headed for resignation, as told by George, who heard these complaints from my sister. The network of rumors is frightening. There's no longer any place of peace for either of them. Hearing this story made me a little scared, thinking that rumors about me might also be spreading. However, from what I've heard, since I'm just a victim, the comments about me have been mild, like, "The sister seems like a serious person." I'm relieved that my serious appearance has saved me. 5 years have passed since that incident. I still live at home with Mandy and our father, cherishing each other in a happy life without the domineering presence of my sister. George is still very healthy, and the home without my sister feels incredibly comfortable. Mandy, now in her 30s and showing no interest in marriage, continues to thrive as a successful single woman. I thought that the tragedy of her parents had an effect, but it seems that it was not. In today's world, there aren't many benefits for a woman to marry. There are drawbacks in the workplace, like even changing your last name is a hassle. Well, I wouldn't mind having children, but I don't need a husband. Mandy, shrugging, has recently been promoted and now holds a title. She's really accomplished, my daughter. Interestingly, there seems to be a cute younger colleague at work who admires Mandy, but it's unclear what will come of it. While Mandy continues to have a good relationship with her grandparents, I no longer communicate with them. They've asked to keep distance because Ben has moved in with them, not wanting to cause any inconvenience. After retiring, Ben quickly lost his footing. He nearly became homeless and was reluctantly taken in by his parents out of pity. They strictly monitor him daily, managing all his finances. Ben, with no freedom left, exhausts himself in strenuous day jobs and is still struggling with his health, barely managing his medication costs, as I've heard through the grapevine. On the other hand, I've recently returned to work. I found a part-time job at a library, surrounded by books I love. It brings me joy to see students and children check out books and leave with smiles. Soon, my father, Mandy, and I plan to take a trip together. We're excited just thinking about where to go. I'm currently living my best days.
Unaware of how appalled I was, my husband boldly declared, "Alyssa, let's sell your parents' house. It's a really good deal. She helped us with it, so I got such a good offer. Overlook my affair, will you? Who would sell it? This cheater. Don't take people for fools. I am Alyssa. I have been married to my husband Chris for 5 years. Our beloved son turned 4. We had what you might call a shotgun wedding, and our child was born soon after we married. We've been trying to parent together, making it up as we go along. We plan to continue cooperating and want another child." I thought, of course, he felt the same. However, around the time our son turned 3, suddenly, his enthusiasm for parenting cooled. The trigger was probably our son starting his terrible twos. As soon as our adorable son began to show his own will, Chris retired from parenting. Given his nature, easily heated and cooled, it's surprising he focused on parenting for 3 years. At the same time, something very shocking happened. Both of my parents fell ill and passed away. Even though they were very close, they didn't have to synchronize their passing to heaven. I visit my childhood home once a month to maintain it since my parents left it to us. I have a younger brother, but he works far away, so I mainly manage the house. They say a house deteriorates quickly if no one lives in it. So I air out the rooms and pull weeds in the garden. It takes an hour by car to my childhood home. The first few times, my husband came with me. But gradually he stopped, and now it's just my son and I. My son loves running around the large house and yard. I'm reluctant to let go of this house that means so much to me. But it's been 2 years since my parents passed away. It might be time to let it go. That thought crossed my mind. When I came home a bit earlier than planned, an unfamiliar car was parked in our driveway. It was a cute compact car. Inside, there were several large stuffed animals like those from an arcade. Why is such a car here? I had a bad feeling. I carried my sleeping son and quietly opened the front door. Cute pumps were carelessly tossed in the entryway. And down the hallway leading to the bedroom, clothes were scattered. Shirts, pants, a dress. I felt the blood drain from my face. I immediately knew whose the discarded clothes were. My husband's clothes. But the dress wasn't mine. Nor the shoes. Most likely, my husband and someone else were in the bedroom. Why, how, why? While I panicked, a calm part of me remained. This was an affair. Evidence. I must preserve the evidence. I used my smartphone to record the situation inside. Should I just go in and confront my husband and his lover in the bedroom? Yes, I should confront them and ask what they think they're doing. At that moment, my sleeping son murmured, His voice brought me back to reality. What if my husband lashes out or the lover causes trouble, and my child is in danger? I hadn't thought my husband was capable of that, but suddenly I was worried. I bit my lip in frustration and decided against storming into the affair scene. I turned back, returned to my car, and took a deep breath. That man, he won't get away with this. A little before the time my son and I were supposed to return home, the front door opened. Out came a flashy, gal-like woman and my husband. They waved and smiled at each other and kissed. Goodbye. I made sure to capture that scene with my camera. My son was being watched by a mom friend. My mom friend had agreed to my sudden request to watch my son for 2 hours. I'll explain later. I don't know what happened, but you can talk to me about anything, she had said. Reliable. I'm grateful. Right after the lover left, I stood up. First, I'll deal with my husband. The lover comes after. I felt like I was storming a dojo as I opened the door to our house. I'm home. Oh, welcome back. You're early. My husband was flustered. Of course. The clothes he had scattered were still all over the floor. The bedroom must still be a mess. That woman, if you're going to cheat, at least clean up after yourself. Who was that person just now? What? Just now? My husband's agitation ignited my anger. Don't mess with me. I have proof. Stop playing dumb and admit to the affair. You scum. Kissing in the entryway, how does that feel? No way. My husband yelled, unable to continue, his mouth agape like a fish. Who is that woman? What were you thinking? How long have you been cheating? She was introduced by a senior. We've been together since last Valentine's. Last year. That's surprisingly long. And last Valentine's was around the time he lost his enthusiasm for parenting. You neglected our beloved son because of your lover. Unbelievable. My husband was flailing his hands and looking around nervously. I have something to say. For some reason, you think I'm going to start the conversation. Just wait a minute. With that, my husband ran to the living room and came back from the dining room with a stack of papers. Look at this. He thrust the papers at me aggressively. Reluctantly, I looked at them. What's this? A real estate sales contract? Yes. What is this, some kind of quiz? Here's the question. When a wife confronted her cheating husband, he produced a real estate sales contract. What is the husband trying to convey? Such a tough question, who could know? I skimmed through the papers irritably. As I read further, I began to feel an urgency that couldn't be ignored. The documents detailed the sale of my parents' house. Hold on. Why is my parents' house being sold? The revelation of my husband's affair was shocking enough. But the sale of my parents' home was completely unexpected. The answer to the earlier quiz seems to be: the affair was for the sake of the real estate transaction. The truth of the matter seems to be drifting further away. Chris started to speak. That girlfriend I mentioned earlier. Her name is Mandy. She knows this incredible man named Mr. Hill, who's involved in various businesses and even runs seminars. I've been to a few seminars with Mandy, and he's really impressive. My dad and mom have completely trusted Mr. Hill too. He knows a lot of celebrities. He said he would buy your parents' house. It's a win-win since he can buy properties cheaper than the market price. And we get a lot more money than going through a real estate agent. I met with Mr. Hill today and signed the contract. Mandy, the mistress, and now a new character, Ms. Hill, appear. Celebrities. Seminars. Real estate transactions. An excited husband. Things are finally starting to make sense. It seemed my husband's next interest had shifted to a very dubious area. While thinking he was foolish, it somehow made sense. However, I didn't want to be involved. Unaware of my disgust, my husband boldly declared, "Alyssa, let's sell that house. No one's living there anymore. And it wouldn't be a problem if it's gone, right? We could make a fortune from the junk. Great, isn't it? Mandy helped me with this, so overlook my affair, will you?" What? And Mandy told me about this, but there's a nice new property for sale now. Let's use the money from selling your family home as a down payment and buy that house. What are you talking about? I'm talking about our future. It's a spacious and beautiful house, with a guest room. I can hold seminars there. On days I'm not holding seminars, I'll invite Mandy over. Great idea, right? I'm appalled. I felt the strength drain from my body. You're being deceived. It's a shady business, you should pull out. I was about to say that, but I stopped. Here's the question. Why didn't the wife try to correct her deceived husband? The answer is simple. Because he's no longer my husband. Overlook an affair? What are you talking about after trying to sell my precious family home without permission? Invite Mandy to the guest room? What do you intend to do in a house where I and our son also live? To think I've been married to such a foolish man for 5 years. No way. What? I spoke from the bottom of my stomach. I refuse. How could I let go of my family home for a stupid like you lowest of men? I was surprised that a stupid it came from my vocabulary, but at this point, it didn't matter. What did you say? That would cause trouble. I'd lose Mr. Hill's trust. I don't care. I threw a bundle of papers. I'm leaving this house. Where's the travel bag? It's in the bedroom. The place where my foolish husband and Mandy were getting cozy. Damn, I don't want to go. But I have no choice but to retrieve my bag. Ignoring my noisy husband crying out, I packed our belongings. My sons and my stuff, and as much as I could carry of what was important, and I left the house. I can't stay in such a place any longer. After leaving the house, I went to pick up my son. I explained to my mom friend that I had stormed into my husband's affair. And gave her sweets as a thank you for her sudden help. She sympathized and expressed concern. Then, I knocked on the door of a law office. To consult about my husband trying to sell my property without permission. I also mentioned his obsession with a dubious seminar and his irrational behavior. The lawyer empathetically listened to my concerns. A consultation fee of $50 for 30 minutes is not cheap. I paid a total of $200 for 2 hours. But it was worth it as I learned all possible countermeasures. The call from my husband came around noon the next day. Hey, let's talk. This time was during his company's lunch break. My deduction is, last night he cried to his parents. Overslept in the morning, and finally called during lunch break. His tone suggested he thought I might have cooled down by now. Yes. I've completely cooled down. My affection for you, that is.
Yeah.
I thought we needed to talk too. Right? I was troubled when you suddenly ran off. Frustrated. But, I must endure. Arguing over every little thing won't help us progress. Maybe we just can't continue as a couple anymore? I guess so. I think so too. I can't believe you don't see the greatness in Mr. Hill and Mandy. If you were willing to move to the next stage with me like my parents, I think we could continue as a couple. I can't do that. What's this next stage? I'll hold off on any unnecessary comments for now. You live freely with our child. I'll have fun living with Mandy and my parents. We're getting a divorce. Understood. But I'm not selling my family home. Oh. About that. His solemn voice brightened a bit. Give me that building as compensation. What? You can't appreciate being connected to those two. So it's only natural you pay me compensation. Look, this is America. You cheated, meaning you are the culpable spouse. Why would a culpable spouse get compensation? That's the difference between you and me. Enough. I don't care about the laws of Stupid Island. Stay away. Knock on wood. Fine. I'll get a lawyer. It's better for you to just give it up willingly than to go through a lawsuit. Does he have a lawyer familiar with the laws of Stupid Island? Fine. But I'll get a lawyer too. Based on American law, I'll claim compensation for the affair. And child support. Also about the divorce, I want to do it now. It's your lunch break, right? Meet at the municipal office now and submit the paperwork. If you can't, I'll bring the divorce papers to your office right now. Sigh. His deep sigh was grating. Annoying. But apparently, he disliked the idea of me bringing divorce papers to his office enough to come to the municipal office right away. Without exchanging a word, my husband and I submitted the divorce papers. 2 mom friends came along to sign as witnesses. I wouldn't have minded if Mr. Hill and Mandy had signed for him either. After divorcing, I took my son and returned to our hometown. We decided to live in the empty family home. I left all the bothersome dealings with my ex-husband to the lawyer. By the time several months had passed, my son had fully adjusted to the new environment. His terrible twos were also starting to settle down. Fortunately, he never asked to see his father, which I was grateful for. I started working and was living a fulfilling life. Then one day, my ex-husband called. I didn't want to answer. What are lawyers for, if not for this? Ignore, ignore, ignore. But the enemy was persistent. He left countless calls from morning till night, and I snapped. I decided to answer the next call. It came within 10 minutes. All right, let's settle this. You're persistent. Talk to my lawyer. Whoa. Is that the first thing you say after so long? Yes. It's been several months, after all. But after being ignored this long, you should give up. What do you want, huh? Please forgive my harsh words. You're at your family home now, right? Yes, but then why can't you submit a change of residence form? Huh? I responded coolly to my ex-husband's irrational anger, but a possibility had sprung to mind. Advised by the lawyer I consulted before our divorce. I need to sell your family home. Give me the address. Are you still saying that? Well, my argument will prevail sooner or later, so I'm going to sell that house anyway. I just bought a new one and need the money urgently. So I thought I'd get the paperwork done first. No, your argument won't prevail. Your lawyer is Japanese too. Both lawyers are looking for a middle ground in their discussions. According to my lawyer. The other lawyer is fed up because my ex-husband keeps making legally untenable claims. If it goes to court, my ex-husband's lawyer might resign. By the way, after getting my address, what were you planning to do next? Mr. Hill knows the details. He told me that if I change your address and register a seal at the new address, I can change the building registration. You're too stupid to know that. But when I tried to submit your change of address at the city office, they told me it didn't match the current address and didn't accept it. I wrote down your family home's address properly. What's going on? Change of address, huh? In the US, that's a serious crime, you know. Serious? What is he focusing on? This was indeed the scheme discussed by the lawyer I consulted. Change someone's address without permission and rewrite the building registration and sell it. That's the scheme. To avoid falling victim to this, I temporarily moved my residence registration to a place other than my family home. It's my brother's place. My ex-husband doesn't know my brother's address. It seems I'm living in that state. Considering unforeseen circumstances, I've also restricted access to my family register. So my ex-husband can't change my address without permission. He certainly can't sell my parents' house without permission. Thank you to the lawyer for informing me. A crime, how rude. I just did as Mr. Hill told me. To Mr. Hill, you're a handyman willing to commit crimes. You also had your mistress forge my power of attorney, didn't you? That's forgery of a private document and also its use, right? Huh, but I've already made a sales contract for your parents' house. With Mr. Hill. Mandy has forged documents before, so she said she could handle it. Then Mandy and Mr. Hill are accomplices. They're teaming up to set you up. What? Mr. Hill probably decided my ex-husband was too foolish. Perhaps the plan to sell my parents' house was discovered too quickly. The divorce happened in an instant. The divorce negotiations didn't go well either. They had no plan to take my parents' house from me. So they probably thought they couldn't make money off him anymore. And tried to sell him a new construction and then disappear. Well, that's just speculation. Thinking about my ex-husband possibly turning pale over the phone makes me feel both pathetic and pitiful. Recently, my dad started saying similar things. He suspects Mr. Hill and Mandy too. He says we should consult the police. But, oh, my father-in-law came to his senses. That's good to hear. It's no longer my concern. I think you should listen to your father. You're quick to heat up and lose sight of your surroundings when you focus. You can't distinguish between good and bad, you're just clueless. So, don't contact me ever again. That's what I said as I hung up the phone. I felt relieved after saying what I wanted to say and I blocked his number. Now, I'm just watching from a higher ground. Later on, my ex-husband followed his father-in-law's advice and went to the police. And Mr. Hill and Mandy were arrested. Apparently, they were a married couple who made a living off fraud. They had indeed been scamming my ex-husband. Unbeknownst to me, both he and his parents had been swindled out of a lot of money. The new construction they introduced was actually second-hand. My ex-husband and his parents were almost stripped of everything. Thanks to going to the police, they narrowly avoided disaster. However, my ex-husband was severely reprimanded by the police for trying to sell my parents' house without permission. He was lucky to avoid being sent to prosecution, but if it had been later, he would have ended up in prison. It's a good thing that my son's father didn't become a criminal. The incident is now resolved. I moved my family register back to my parents' house from my brother's place, where I had it for safety. What a hassle it was. Later, through his lawyer, my ex-husband asked if there was a chance of remarrying. As if. I told them to focus on paying the compensation and child support on time instead of indulging in such convenient fantasies. His parents, not him, showed understanding for my blunt response. They reflected on how they had been deceived by Mr. Hill and Mandy and paid the compensation on his behalf. Right. It's crazy to think a son would cheat because of his lover's sweet talk. Normally, you'd scold him saying, "Don't do such foolish things." Child support will be paid diligently by him every month. I've learned from this ordeal and am determined to raise my son to understand the difference between right and wrong. I'll study how swindlers operate and teach my son as well. But maybe it's too early for fraud and money talks. My son is happily running around in the spacious yard of my parents' house. Mommy, I caught a grasshopper. Wow, that's great. Let's release it later. Seeing my son's bright smile makes me feel happy. Here, in the house where I grew up, my son and I will live freely and joyfully.
Finally, my luck is turning around. Huh? Now that the old man is dead, it's finally my time. Despite my father passing away not long ago, he dared to speak so disrespectfully. He had been supported by my father ever since we got married. Do you realize what you're saying? Yeah, I know. I'll be taking the land and the inheritance. I inherited a considerable amount, right? You've been scheming this all along? Of course. I couldn't wait for him to kick the bucket. He misunderstands everything. You could never do such a thing. Ha! No use acting tough. Here, take this. He threw something at me. Pick it up. What he threw was a completed divorce form. A divorce form? You can't do anything without me. That's why I'll make good use of your assets. What if I refuse? Are you stupid? What other choice do you have but to divorce? For me, this was an opportunity. Everything up to now had been a sham. And he didn't know. He didn't know my true self. Hey. What are you doing? What do you think? I'm leaving this house. You'll regret this. Right back at you. Wait. You won't be able to do anything if you leave. We'll see about that. Your company had dealings with mine, remember? My company? What are you talking about? You'll find out soon enough. Oh, and I'll take care of submitting this divorce form, so no worries. Thus, I left the house. I immediately submitted the divorce form. And then I called his company. It's me. The project is cancelled. And all the contracts we had are now void. Please wait. If you do that, my true self is the head of a company that manages 7,000 employees. I thought, now that it's come to this, I'll go all the way. What will he do next, I wonder? I'm Abby Brown, and I just turned 40. I thought, I've gotten quite old, haven't I? While I was lost in thought at home, I heard a voice calling me. It was my husband, Ryan. What are you doing there? Nothing. If you're bored, you could at least clean the house. Know your place. I sighed softly, unnoticed. It wasn't like this when we first met. I met Ryan just 2 years ago. Back then, I wasn't particularly interested in marriage. It might as well have been said that I was married to my job. Yet, I ended up marrying Ryan. It all started with my father. Huh? I'm fine. I don't plan to marry anyone no matter how many times I'm introduced. Now, don't say that. You're nearly 40, right? It's a bit much to still be single at that age. Mind your own business. I intended to refuse, but my father was stubborn. Day after day, he kept saying things like, "He's a good man, you'll see if you meet him." But I knew it was my father's strategy. So, how about it? Do you want to meet him? Not at all. And it seems like we had been having this conversation for almost a month. And, as usual, he tried to persuade me that day. No matter how many times you say it, my mind won't change. Then at least look at his photo, you can decide after that. I'll look at it, that's all. Oh. By the way, where did I put that photo? In your study, as usual? Right. Father went downstairs to his study to fetch a photo. Suddenly, I heard a loud thud from the direction of the study where he should have been. I rushed to check and found him lying face down. Dad? What happened? Hearing the commotion, my mother also came to the study. Mom. Even in such a moment, she remained composed. Abby, call an ambulance right away. Oh, okay. I called, and the ambulance arrived in about 15 minutes. My father was unconscious, but his heart was still beating. He was taken to the hospital and treated. It turned out that my father had a stroke. A blood clot had temporarily blocked a blood vessel, causing him to lose consciousness. Dad. Sorry, who would have thought I'd collapse? This is no laughing matter. He was soon allowed to go home as there were no other complications. However, my father had all the risk factors for his condition: high blood pressure, smoking, and drinking. The doctor advised him to be careful, but he seemed to take it as if it didn't concern him. From now on, no more alcohol or cigarettes for you. But those are my pleasures. What will you do if you collapse again? My father loved his nightly drinks, particularly fond of whiskey, collecting bottles from all over the country. Then, he made a proposal. If you insist so much, I have a condition too. A condition? This isn't a negotiation. If you want me to listen, you'll have to agree to my condition. And what's that condition? Meet a man I want to introduce to you. Huh? If you don't, I'll continue smoking and drinking more. It seemed like he was enjoying the situation. But if it meant he would live longer, I decided to accept his condition. All right, I'll meet him. Good. I'm glad you said that. Mother, who was in the kitchen, seemed exasperated. Good, let's not delay. I'll call him now. No, that's not okay. When we decide to do something, we do it without hesitation. That's our family motto. I've never heard that before. Well, I just decided now. I was always at the mercy of my father. Who would believe he was the president of a large corporation with thousands of employees? His employees would surely be shocked. And just as my father said, a man arrived. Sorry for the sudden call. This is Ryan Smith, a promising talent from a company we do business with. Nice to meet you. Ah, nice to meet you too. I'm Abby Brown. This was how I met Ryan, and despite it being our first meeting, we ended up having an unexpectedly engaging conversation about work. It turned out that my father and Ryan had met at a president's drinking party. Moreover, my father had said something outrageous to Ryan. By the way, I heard from President Brown that you were incredibly popular in school, turning down boys left and right. Is that true? Huh? What's that all about? I glared at my father. Don't glare like that. You said something weird again. What are you talking about? It's mostly true. Maybe a bit exaggerated. It's better not to believe everything Dad says. He tends to lie a lot. Is that so? If you can't discern between lies and truth, you're not trustworthy. That's why lies are sometimes necessary. What a convenient excuse. I was always being manipulated by my father. Later, we drank together. Of course, my father had a soft drink. Drunk, Ryan became talkative and revealed his ambitions. I'm going to be rich. Rich? Yes. I'll live in a house like this one, and eventually, I'll become a president, no matter what it takes. What do you mean by that? Exactly what I said. Then, Ryan fell asleep. For the night, he would sleep in the guest room. As I was cleaning up, my father came by. What did you think of him? I think he's a very interesting person. He reminds me a bit of you, Dad. Yes, I've thought so since we first met. And it seems his father used to be the president of a small company. He's passed away now, though. I see. He's a good man, anyway. Father was completely smitten with Ryan, but I could see why. He was charismatic, the type that pulls you in when he talks. The next morning, when I went to wake Ryan in the guest room, I heard voices as if he was talking to someone. I understand. Everything is going smoothly here. Yes, don't worry. I'll definitely accomplish it. I waited for the phone call to end before knocking. Good morning. Good morning. Sorry, it seemed like you were on the phone. Everything okay? Ah, that was my mother. She's a worrier. I see. My family is much the same. Ryan looked a bit troubled at that moment. Eventually, we ended up getting married. It was surprising even to me, but it was exciting as well. However, I was unaware of the incredible darkness he harbored. Ryan seemed quite happy to have become part of our family. Father even suggested we live with him, but Ryan and I decided we wanted to live by ourselves. Father then arranged an apartment for us. Let's keep in touch. Sure. At first, he was considerate, and every day was fresh and fun. But after a while, his behavior toward me became harsher. It felt like he was looking down on me. Did you clean the house? I just got back, so no. Can't you even do that? So, it was true after all. What are you talking about? This was how he greeted me when I returned from work. Listen well. From now on, you'll follow my orders. Why? Don't talk back, or I won't forgive you. Ryan wouldn't listen to anything I said. It became clear why he was acting this way. My father had called me a woman who couldn't do anything. Moreover, he apparently said I was incompetent at work and just a menial worker. I immediately complained to my father. Why would you say that? It was just a joke. Thanks to your joke, I'm having a hard time. Please clear this misunderstanding with him. Okay, but I can't believe he took it seriously. Father looked a bit surprised. Is it that surprising? No, sorry. I'll talk to him properly. Father explained to Ryan shortly after. Whether he was convinced or not, Ryan seemed to return to normal, but he still seemed skeptical of me. I couldn't stand it. Do you still believe what my father said? Huh? Does it look like that? The way you look at me. It feels like you're looking down on me. At that, Ryan bowed his head and begged for forgiveness. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I wasn't thinking. Well, as long as you understand, that's fine. Ryan appeared deeply affected by my words and began to be more considerate, talking less about work. However, I noticed he began to gauge my reactions. If he could just stop doing that, he would be a truly good husband. 6 months of these days passed when one afternoon, my mother called. Father had collapsed again and was taken to the hospital. What? Dad? He collapsed at home again. This time it might be serious. How bad is it? He's stable now. I'll go to the hospital right away. I rushed to see my father. Dad. When I arrived at the hospital, he was in surgery, and all I could do was pray. How is your father? You came. Of course. Ryan had been playing golf with a client. He hadn't answered his phone, so I had sent him a message. It's going to be okay, right? You know as well as I do that your father isn't that fragile. Maybe, but still. The surgery went on for hours, and I was on edge the entire time. Finally, the surgery was over. Doctor. How is my father? The surgery was successful. However, there might be some lasting language impairments. What's important is what comes next. Hearing there might be impairments left me feeling lost. It'll be okay. Thank you. Ryan gently placed his hand on my shoulder. At that moment, I felt truly grateful to be married to him. 2 days later, my father woke up. We were anxious since the doctor had mentioned possible language impairments, but thankfully, he defied our worries in a good way. Dad. You're okay. Is that you, Abby? And everyone else too. I've caused you all a lot of worry. I'm so relieved. I held back tears. Since my father would need to stay in the hospital for a while, we planned to visit him regularly. During one of these visits, my father shared something with me. Why did you do it? After you had quit for so long. I'm sorry. Ryan invited me after work. It's hard to say no to your son-in-law. That's not the issue here. This is the second time. I've really learned my lesson now. Turns out, my father hadn't quit drinking or smoking at all. And Ryan was involved too. After leaving the hospital, I rushed home, determined to confront Ryan. Why did you let Dad drink? What's gotten into you all of a sudden? Answer my question. Your dad seemed stressed from work, that's why. If this is the result, it's meaningless. You can't know for sure if the drink was the cause. But it might well have been the cause, couldn't it? What's the use in arguing about this? Are you trying to dodge the issue? Ryan walked away to his study, looking annoyed. From that day on, our communication almost ceased. He mostly ignored me when I tried to speak to him. Moreover, he was secretly up to something. He was often on the phone at night. At first, I thought he might be having an affair, but it seemed different. He occasionally mentioned things being on track or almost there. I felt I had heard similar things before but couldn't quite remember. Curiosity got the best of me, and I sneaked into his usually off-limits study while he was out. I thought, the last time I entered here was right after we got married. The room was tidy, nothing unusual at first glance. But the desk was cluttered. Among the mess, I found photos of my father and me, along with various company documents. I couldn't understand why he was collecting these. Suddenly, I heard the front door. Ryan was home. I thought, he's back. Not good. In my panic, I knocked over some items on the desk. I quickly picked them up and put them back. That's when I noticed something written in red on the back of a photo. I couldn't make out what it said before Ryan caught me. Hey! What are you doing here? Just thought I'd do some cleaning. Who said you could come in here? Answer me. Calm down, please. How can I stay calm? Did you see what's on the desk? Which is it? I didn't see anything. You've really done something terrible. He seemed very concerned about the desk. It must mean the items I saw were problematic for him. As I thought this, Ryan locked the room and slowly approached me. What are you planning to do? I need to make you understand your place. Stop. Ryan grabbed my arm forcefully. Listen. From now on, do not go against what I say. If you do, you'll see hell. His eyes were serious. I could tell that much. Soon after, Ryan changed the locks on the room to keep me out. Our relationship was no longer that of a married couple. I hesitated even to speak to him. The only solace was my father. Good you came. Yeah. You don't look well. What's wrong? Maybe I ate too much? Ryan, how are you doing? Is work going smoothly? Yes, thanks to your father, I was able to secure a major contract. I didn't really do anything. It's all thanks to your own abilities, Ryan. Everything seemed peaceful, but that was only when we were at the hospital. Ryan only put on a good face in front of my father. Continuing like this would only wear me down, both mentally and physically. Time flew by quickly, and today was the day to visit my father. I'm going to visit Dad, but I'll pass. You go alone. I think Dad is looking forward to seeing you. I went last time, that's enough. But enough. The hospital is far away, and I'm busy. How could he say such a thing? But rebelling could provoke an unknown fear in me. In the end, I went to see my father alone. Initially, my father was despondent about his hospitalization, but his natural cheerfulness meant he soon made friends with other patients. Dad. I found you. It's time for your temperature check. We need to go back. Is it that time already? Then let's head back. He said goodbye to the other patients he was chatting with and returned to his room. Isn't Ryan with you today? He's a bit busy today. He sends his regards. I see. I couldn't bring myself to tell him that Ryan didn't want to come. How are things with Ryan lately? Why do you ask all of a sudden? Just wondering if you two are getting along well. Well, it's okay. Didn't you ask that before? Did I? I've been forgetful lately. It's just as well, it's only you today. What do you mean? I have something important to discuss today. His news was unexpectedly shocking. My life was about to accelerate, and with it, my feelings towards Ryan were turning to hatred. So, what is it? Listen carefully. I'm falling apart. Continuing as president might become difficult for me. What? What will happen to the company? That's why I've found a suitable replacement. Who? Of course, it's you, Abby. Me? That's impossible. It's all right. No one is accustomed to it at first. But you've been by my side for years, watching. I've already discussed this with the other executives. Even so, to just spring this on me. Please. I had never seen my father so pleading. He had always been the one to protect the company and our family. Perhaps now it was my turn to protect him. After all, I am his daughter. Okay. Good. I'm glad you agreed. But you have to promise to rest and get better. Understood. And don't tell anyone about becoming president yet. Okay, I got it. Not even Ryan. Not Ryan either? Got it? Father's eyes were incredibly serious. I couldn't understand why he said that, but I agreed to follow his instructions. The reason behind his words would only become clear much later. For now, even though I was president, I couldn't just start giving orders. I needed to relearn everything my father had been doing. Fortunately, our company's executives were competent and truly supportive. 2 months passed. You've been coming home late. What have you been doing? I've been loaded with work. Some of the younger staff quit recently. Huh. I wondered if this lie would work, but it seemed to pass. Anyway, listen to this. I secured a huge contract today. And it's with your company. Oh, is that so? I had heard that a contract was finalized today, but I didn't know it involved Ryan. You should try to learn from this. Though, I doubt you could. I was irked by his comment and retorted without thinking. You won't know until you try. What? I realized I had said something dangerous. Provoking Ryan was risky, so I quickly tried to correct myself. That's right. There's no way I could do it. As long as you understand. A few days later, a call came from the hospital. My father's condition had suddenly changed, and tonight was critical. Unable to sit still, I left work and rushed to the hospital. By the time I arrived, my mother was already there, clearly exhausted. Abby. How is Dad? He's in his room right now. In the room, my father was lying down with a ventilator attached. He was barely breathing, and it seemed he could stop at any moment. The doctor mentioned there might have been a new clot in his brain. Then what about surgery? The doctor seemed hesitant to speak. The surgery was successful. However, the impact on the brain was more severe than expected. He might never wake up. I felt helpless that I couldn't do anything for my father. Before he collapsed, he didn't want the surgery. He's been having memory issues lately and was scared of forgetting his own family. Then why? He was still worried about his family. He didn't want to leave things unresolved. Then my father woke up. It's rare for someone to wake up from this state. The doctor was visibly surprised. Abby, are you there? Yes, I'm here. Listen carefully to what I'm about to say. I'm listening. Be careful of Ryan. I'm sorry things turned out like this. What do you mean? There's an envelope in the drawer of my study. Look at it. Dad? As he spoke, his breathing became weaker and he passed away. Everything went dark before my eyes. Are you okay? Yeah. I just need a moment to calm down. And I need to call Ryan. I tried to call him, but there was no response. Isn't he picking up? No. Ryan never came to the hospital. Eventually, I returned home, and Ryan was acting as if nothing had happened. Why the rush? Why didn't you answer your phone? I was busy. What happened? Dad passed away. Just now at the hospital. Ryan looked down and began to tremble. What? Finally. Now my plan is nearing its final stage. What are you talking about? It doesn't concern you. Well, maybe it does. Then, Ryan locked himself in his study with a creepy smile. There are many things I am curious about, but right now, there are many things I must do. I headed to my parents' house to prepare for my father's funeral. Thank you for helping, even though you're busy. What are you talking about? This comes first. We shared the responsibilities for arranging the funeral. During a break, my mother mentioned something. By the way, didn't your father tell you to check his study? Ah. That's right. I'll go check now. My father's study was at the end of the hallway on the first floor. It had been a while since I last entered. Inside, I did as instructed and opened the drawer. Inside was an envelope, and I quickly looked through its contents. After reading it, everything that had happened became clear. I thought, so this is why Ryan. This was something my father had gathered for me. On the back of the envelope, there was a handwritten message from him. Reading it, I realized I didn't need to hold back anymore. Gradually, my anger and hatred towards Ryan began to boil. I swore to keep these feelings hidden until the right time. The funeral went smoothly, and I believe we gave my father a proper send-off. Of course, this was not the end. Later, my mother called and we gathered at the family home. It was just my mother, me, and Ryan. Thank you for coming. What's going on today? We're going to open Dad's will. When did he prepare that? Apparently, my father had made arrangements while he was in the hospital. The contents of the unveiled will were as follows. The family home and half of the estate my father left were inherited by my mother, and the rest went to me. But I inherited more than just that. The land is mine too? I wouldn't know what to do with the land. I'm sure you will find a good use for it. I'll think about it. Glancing to the side, I saw Ryan faintly smiling. The reading of the will was over, and my mother suggested we go out for a meal. I have to head back, sorry. What? After Mom invited us? You have a problem with that? Not really. Good. See ya. Ryan left just like that. All I could do was sigh. Sorry, Mom. I think I'll go back too. That might be for the best. We can always eat another time. Sorry. See you later. After leaving the family home, I quickly followed Ryan. He might be up to something again. When I got home, Ryan was sprawled on the sofa as if he owned the place. What took you so long? Where have you been dawdling? I came straight home. Well, sit down. I have something to talk about. I sat down, though I had a bad feeling about this. Ryan began to speak with a laugh. Finally, my luck is turning around. Huh? Now that the old man is dead, my time has finally come. Get it? So this was his true nature. Do you even understand what you're saying? Yeah, I understand. I'll be taking the land and the assets. I inherited a considerable amount, right? You've been aiming for this all along? Of course. I couldn't wait for him to kick the bucket. He misunderstands everything. You could never do such a thing. Ha! No use acting tough. Here, take this. He threw something at me. Pick it up quickly. What he threw was a completed divorce form. A divorce form? You can't do anything without me. That's why I'll make good use of your assets. Hand them over to me. You're still saying that? It's true, isn't it? You're useless at home, so I, being superior, will take it all. What an idiot he really is. What if I refuse? Are you stupid? What other choice do you have but to divorce? For me, this was an opportunity. Everything up to now had been a sham. And he didn't know. He didn't know my true self. Hey. What are you doing? What do you think? I'm leaving this house. You'll regret this. Right back at you. Wait. You won't be able to do anything if you leave. We'll see about that. Your company had dealings with mine, remember? My company? What are you talking about? You're just an employee. You'll find out soon enough. Oh, and I'll take care of submitting this divorce form, so no worries. With that, I left the house. I headed straight to the main street and immediately made a call. Yes. Can you come now? 10 minutes later, a hired car picked me up. Where to? For now, let's head to the city office. Understood. At the city office, I submitted the divorce papers, which I had signed in the car. I wanted to be divorced as soon as possible. I wanted nothing to do with such scum. Afterward, I drove to a certain location. When I decide to do something, I act immediately. That's our family motto. I continued driving straight to the company. I entered the president's office and sat down. Thank you for your time. I'm Abby. Sorry to come unannounced, but there's something important I need to discuss with President Morris immediately. What might that be? About that project we were advancing. I've left that in Ryan's hands. I'm aware of that. Right, you two are married. Yes, about that project, I want it completely halted. What did you say? And I'm terminating all contracts we currently have with you. Doing that would bankrupt our company. That may be true. But it's your employee who is to blame. What? Please bring Ryan with you to my house at 11 tomorrow. What does that mean? You'll see. I'll see you tomorrow. I hung up the phone. Honestly, I bear no grudge against President Morris, but this is necessary. I'm using him for my revenge against Ryan. After all, I have something special up my sleeve. The next day, I waited in the president's office for Ryan and his arrival. Ms. Brown, your 11 a.m. appointment is here. Let them in. They entered, and Ryan froze when he saw me. I almost laughed at his stunned expression. Welcome, thank you for coming. Why are you here? Because I'm the president of this company. I kept it quiet from President Morris. It would be troublesome if you knew, wouldn't it? So, what about the contract? Right, about that. Please, look at this first. I handed over the envelope my father had entrusted to me. Is this true? Everything here was investigated by my father before he died. Ryan, you have done something terrible. What? Ryan had been securing contracts using bribes and illegal methods, all of which were detailed in the records. The amount of time it must have taken to compile all this information. What a foolish man. Damn it. Even so, I have a right to inherit the assets. It wouldn't be right not to honor my father. First off, you have no right to the assets I inherited. There should be a division of assets. I know that. Unfortunately for you, that isn't recognized in the division. You should have studied up. Where did I go wrong? From the beginning. Ryan's father had been a president but had passed away, apparently by suicide. A major factor was his company being cut off by another company. All of this was also investigated by my father. Importantly, that company had a name almost identical to ours. I explained this to Ryan. Essentially, all of this was a misunderstanding by you. That's a lie. I heard it from my mother. That can't be. What if the story you heard was wrong? Plus, there's no record of any dealings with your father's company in the past. How could this happen? What was it all for? Your actions have caused trouble for many people. You're going to be held responsible. Wait. President Morris, can I leave the rest to you? Depending on how things go, I might reconsider the cancellation of our deals. Of course. I will handle it immediately. Then goodbye. Don't ever show me your face again. After that, Ryan was practically dragged out of the office by President Morris. I never thought it would come to this, but I wonder where my father had first noticed something was wrong. Now, I'll never get the chance to ask him. But I feel a bit relieved. Shortly after, President Morris contacted me. I see. Thank you for handling this. As a result, Ryan was fired. Not only that, but it appears he had been embezzling company funds to pay for bribes. Now, preparations are being made to press charges. That seems like a fair response. Amidst all this, I received a call from Ryan. Everything you said was right. About what? I spoke to my mother again. It turns out it was all a misunderstanding. My father hadn't left a will either. I see. Can I ask you something? Was encouraging my father to drink all part of your plan? Yes. I see. I'm sorry. It's too late for apologies now. From now on, you're on your own. I understand. I'm not supporting you. Just being sarcastic. Go to hell. I hung up the phone and deleted all his contact information. I had almost forgotten, but on the back of a photo in Ryan's study, written in red pen, was the word revenge target. It was all a mistake from the start, but to think I was targeted. I sat on the sofa in the president's office, reminiscing about the words written by my father in the envelope. Abby, you are my pride and joy. Do as you wish. I believe in you. I had never been told something like that before. To ensure my father can rest peacefully in heaven, I will protect the company he left behind with my life.